Hey everyone, this is Keith Scott from out in Sydney, Australia. I'm one of the voices of Bullwinkle J. Moose. It's time to watch Relentless and Unstoppable. And so give it up for your main hosts, Douglas Kenny and Andy McPhee.
Hey everybody, this is Doug Kenny and welcome to Relentless and Unstoppable. We have another amazing guest coming on the channel today, so please hit like and subscribe. And after this episode, please stay tuned to the RNU channel for more amazing guests. Let's get this on!
Hey everybody, how you doing? Just a quick little share of why I started Relentless and Unstoppable. It was for one very simple reason, because of Doug Kenny. Nothing to do with me at all, zero. I was just coaching Doug, and he took on the coaching and mentoring, and he made all the changes. He took all the suggestions from his parents as well as my coaching, but it was all about Doug, his breakthrough and his weight loss, his willingness to accept that he is dealing with high functioning autism and other issues, but he's never quit, he's never given up. So we did one interview with him to share his story, and then we decided to start interviewing other people. And Doug has now taken over the whole channel, and he does all the interviews, he runs everything. He's just an amazing young man. So RNU was born from simply what an amazing young man Doug is, and his story needed to be shared.
Hey everybody, this is Doug Kenny from Relentless and Unstoppable. Merry Christmas and Happy Hanukkah to the people that are celebrating the holiday season. Today we have Brian Levant with us, the director of Jingle All the Way. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Happy holidays to everybody.
Awesome. So where are you at the moment?
I'm in my office on the far reaches of Los Angeles County.
Nice. What are all those things behind you?
Well, that's in this room, everything's really stuff from my career, as opposed to most of my collections, which are scattered, well, not throughout the house. It really is the house. And, you know, that one of the reasons that I did Jingle All the Way, because I'm a toy collector, and to me, creating the hottest toy in America and all in commercials for it and all the marketing materials and the packaging was a dream assignment. And it turned out to be much rougher than I thought. But it was a very interesting journey. And you know, if you looked at the overview of this film, what is it now, 27 years old now, it is that the film did not perform upon its initial release, and it has since become a holiday classic of sorts. And there are people like yourself who grew up with it, who have turned Jingle All the Way into an annual viewing experience for the entire family. And I'm appreciative of it. And it's really changed the way I've felt about the film over the years. And now I can kind of enjoy it instead of thinking of it as the thing that stopped me from being a real A-list director. But yes, no, it's been quite a journey. And when things happened last year or 2 years ago for the 25th anniversary, and Funko released, remade and re-released the original Tiger Toys Turbo Man that was released alongside the film, a Walmart exclusive, folks, priced very reasonably. And they did not fly off the shelves the way Turbo Man did in the movie the first time around, but the second time around, I had to buy one on eBay. How's that? And along with their remade Turbo Man, they also did a line of 5 Funko Pops, which were very clever and fun, and obviously created by people who knew the film well and loved the film.
Yeah, for sure. I first saw Jingle All the Way in theaters in my hometown of Estes Park, Colorado. It was 2004, and it was obviously a re-airing, but I loved it. I found it so funny, that duel between Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sinbad over the Turbo Man action figure.
Yes, no, it was that really at the heart of the movie. You know, the other day I did an introduction for a screening over in England, and I listed the whole cast, and I neglected to add Sinbad for some reason. I felt very bad about that, and it really made me think about his contributions. It's really thought of as an Arnold film, but it's also Sinbad's best film work, I believe. And his improvisations, his energy. Uh, he's a guy who at the time was having a tremendous amount of fun. There are some people who really enjoy their celebrity, their wealth, and certainly Sinbad was one of them, as was Phil Hartman. Phil Hartman probably more than anyone I'd known, and he was a joyous man, and who flaunted. One day he just drove. We're shooting the parade, and he just drives up in a brand new Ferrari and goes, "Is this crew parking?" And when we were in Minneapolis, we all, Robert Conrad, Sinbad, Phil, me, my family, we went to see the Timberwolves play the Lakers, of course, and Magic Johnson had just come back, so it was very exciting. But they interviewed Phil during halftime, and it was supposed to be like a 30-second hello, and they were ready to throw the ball up before to start the second half, and Phil was still going. And sometimes I try and think about what films were like in production, and for the most part, there was a lot of tension with my producer and his team. Chris Columbus, the director of Home Alone, and Mrs. Doubtfire, and many, many others. And this was his first attempt really to produce someone else's work. And I think deep down, he probably figured he would have done a much better job than I had. But there was a bit of a discrepancy about Christmas. To him, it was the holiest day of the year. And to me, it's an excuse to put a marching band in red vinyl Santa Claus outfits. So we came from differing places on that. But Arnold was fun. Working with people like Arnold and Jackie Chan, whose lives, for the better part of their adult lives, have been shuttling between film sets, and they kind of, their stunt teams are really the little family that they travel with, and they stick together, and they have a nice little community. So that stays stable no matter where you are, and I think it helps to ground people and really allow them to enjoy the experience, rather than grouse about, what am I got to put on long underwear to go out and shoot a scene. Come on. So that the kind of the smaller frustrations that dog you in the making of production, the stop and start, it took 45 minutes to put on that Turbo Man costume, and God forbid you had to take a leak, But it was a very happy set. I loved working with Robert Conrad, who was, when I was in high school, I loved the Wild Wild West, and I knew he did all his own stunts and everything. Then he got his big tough guy image, which I wasn't so fond of, but I love him from Wild Wild West. And just to work with someone like that, and to have them commit, and he was doing some strong comedy. Very much in the vein of playing it so straight that it was comedic. The same school that Leslie Nielsen and Lloyd Bridges had profited from greatly. doing that same sort of thing late in their career. And Martin Mull, who I knew originally as a musician, when I was in high school, he did semi-comedic albums. Am I in heaven or am I in Miami? What was the other one? I'd like to go to Holland, wooden shoe, because in Woodstock there ain't diddly squat to do. So he was kind of a funny folk rock singer. And then, he became an actor thanks to the Norman Lear produced Mary Hartman, the adult late night soap opera of many years, starring Louise Lasser, Woody Allen's first wife. But we're getting ahead of ourselves here. He was fun to have around, and he was around for a long time because they insisted that the producers insisted that we have a set to go to if we had rain, right? And so we built that little radio station and brought it with. So, and Martin Mull had to be there the whole time. So if it rained, we'd go to that set. Of course, we never did that. When we made believe it or not, when we made our last outdoor shot in Minneapolis, it was like, cut, print, all right, let's get out of here. And it started to pour. So we lugged that thing around and rented a stage and had lights for it and everything, and paid Martin Mull for a month.
That's funny, man. Just curious, how did you get Arnold Schwarzenegger to do his American accent with a little bit of essence of Austrian left in it?
You cannot make Arnold change his speech patterns, but he's a consummate professional. I said he enjoys his work. We had fun working. He would pretend to be bothered by the minutia of cinema photography, and fine, let's all do it again, but he has a good time, and he was upbeat, and he enjoyed having a set where his kids could come visit him, and he didn't have half of his face was aluminum, and he really gotten a taste for comedy and more skilled in comedy, working doing the films with Ivan Reitman, who I was fortunate enough to direct a film for, Beethoven, I think Ivan showed him how he could use the icy, strong persona for comedy purposes. And I think he understood it and he enjoyed it. And I think whenever he does get to have a lighter moment in these films, especially like True Lies, his humor shines, and he's a funny guy in real life. Somewhat, yes, his speech is somewhat awkward by Barack Obama standards, but compared to 99% of the world, he manages to get across what he feels, which I think is most important for him. We also had Rita Wilson, who I'd worked with twice on Happy Days before she'd ever met Tom, who also did an episode of Happy Days, which by the way, while we're talking about Happy Days briefly, next September you'll be able to buy my new book. I'll show you my old one in a little bit. Fred Fox Jr., who we were both longtime writers and ended up being the supervising producer of Happy Days. And for the 50th anniversary in 2024, we are releasing through Insight Editions 50 Years of Happy Days, featuring all new interviews with Ron Howard, Henry Winkler, Marion Ross, Anson Williams, Don Most, Ted McGinley, and Scott Bale. So you can look for that. But yeah, so I knew Rita before she was Rita Wilson, and I thought to myself, she's used to being married to a big star. She's the guy. She's not going to be overwhelmed by the job because she lived it. And I think that brought more domesticity to the story because somebody wasn't worried about playing somebody's wife and how to fill that role. And Jake Lloyd, is had a bit of a troubled adulthood, but he was a really, really good kid and very nice family. And, I talked to the Lucas people, certainly not to George Lucas. They called and asked about him before Star Wars. What was the first one called?
Phantom Menace.
A Phantom Menace. Very good. Very good. And, and I said to them, you really got to get him a dialogue coach. I mean, we did on Jingle. I brought in Walter Von Hune, who was the dialogue coach on Happy Days and on my long-running Leave It to Beaver revival, 84 to 89, and also done a lot of directing, things like Swamp Thing and stuff. And I brought him in. To work with Jake, and I introduced him to Arnold. This is Walter Von Hune. Von Hune, sprechen Sie Deutsch als Händler? Ja, and so I never saw Walter again. Walter, seriously, ended up working for Arnold as his personal dialogue coach, which extended to Arnold's term as governor. That Walter was there, to help him do things like the keynote address at the Republican convention that he did. Anyways, we said, get a dialogue coach. And they didn't. And when I saw the film, I was kind of surprised by the boy's performance. And I called the family and said, so tell me, how did it go? And he said, well, they never told him what to do. He was on his own. He's 8 years old. He's on his own. I mean, I've done a tremendous amount of work with kids. The Bad News Bears TV series in the 80s and the Beaver shows and the Charles in Charges and all those. And people need they need a little help. They're going to school. They got friends they're trying to keep up with. Just help them, guide them. But he didn't get any of that. And it reminded me of a story that Ron Howard once told me about American Graffiti and George Lucas, who he idolized. And Ron was going to USC Film School, which Lucas had graduated from just years before, in the fall after American Graffiti. And so he really shadowed him and pumped him day in and day out about USC. But they never got direction from George Lucas. They would all, Richard Dreyfuss, Charlie Martin Smith, Cindy Williams, Harrison Ford, all of them would go in the back of the diner and they'd run lines and give each other notes.
Gee, that's all we have for Relentless and Unstoppable. So tune into the next episode to hear more amazing stories from amazing guests. This is Keith Scott from Sydney, Australia, saying so long, and I'm smarter than the average bear. Gee.